Hi, I'm Lynn. Welcome to my home. I'd like to introduce you to one of my favorite pieces that I got from Walker Fine Art. I commissioned it from the artist Heather Patterson, and she actually came to my house to install it. And we toasted with a glass of wine and celebrated its new home. When I first saw it at Walker Fine Art, I really was drawn to the bright colors and the kinetic energy. It reminded me of hiking through Vail Valley and the explosion of wildflowers all around me. I also like the topo map behind the flowers. That reminds me of the mountains, which is really my happy place. I get rejuvenated and recharged every time I go. I also like the lines and connections. It reminds me of technology. I'm in high tech, so I can relate, but there's sometimes a competition between technology and nature. I chose this focal point over my fireplace because you can see it from many rooms, and when I entertain, it's always a topic of conversation with friends and family. I can see it every morning when I come downstairs from my bedroom to make coffee. I see it every evening when I come home from work. It always brings me joy and lifts my spirits. I never get tired of looking at it.
Hi Lynn, it's so great to see you again. Thank you so much for supporting my work. And one of the great things I loved about this particular commission was that I got to actually go to your house and help install the final painting and have a glass of wine with you and talk about the work and see your beautiful home and the rest of your wonderful collection. So often as artists, we make the work and send it out, and we never know where the painting lives or who has it. And so this was such a unique connection that I got to have with you that I really appreciate. I'd love to give you all a really quick tour of my studio and talk a little bit about the ideas behind the piece Elevation that is in Lynn's collection. Thank you. Here's a little sneak peek at my studio and the work that is about halfway finished for the Map Makers show at Walker Fine Art that's going to open this September. So all of the work is kind of in progress, and I usually work on about 10 to 20 different paintings at one time. This makes the most sense to me as far as imagery bouncing off of each other and kind of waiting for things to dry while I'm working on other things. And yeah, all of the images can kind of bounce off of each other to make a cohesive body of work for the show. So I think it was really interesting for me to hear Lynn's ideas on the painting and how they're really similar to the ideas that I originally had. I think abstract work can be open to interpretation, but it's really awesome when you have that big of a connection with a piece that you have the same ideas that the artist had. I grew up in Lake Tahoe, Nevada, and so grew up hiking and camping and backpacking and really developed a strong appreciation for nature and the natural world. And so that plays a lot into my work. So some of this piece, for instance, has some of the same kind of rock formation patterns that were in Lynn's piece. And I really think of these as like that high elevation, really rough shale or granite. And so that's part of what's in her work. And the topographic lines that were in her work, those play a lot into my work. This piece is really similar to the piece that she had, and I loved that she connects the burst shapes with high elevation flowers. They could be that to me, or they could be, originally I was thinking of cellular signals and kind of the man-made influence, the built environment influence on the natural world. So some of the things that I look at are weather patterns, animal migration patterns. This is butterfly migration patterns. Some aerial views of the landscape and migration patterns. And I've always loved topography and the topo maps. And I feel the same way that Lynn feels, that I really feel that recharge when I get into the natural world, and that's where I can kind of feel most at peace and reboot for everyday life. So I'm so glad that you love your painting, Lynn, and thank you again so much for supporting my work.